Welcome to another edition of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show, Janeen Jackson. Janeen, you're the first guest of the new year. Yeah.
Yay, this is awesome. What a wonderful way to start 2024.
What a wonderful way to start 2024. And it's we're recording this on the 3rd of January, and I'll be publishing it tomorrow on the 4th of January, which is actually my birthday.
Oh, that's awesome. Happy birthday, and how fitting for the topic.
Yeah, how fitting for the topic. Yeah.
Oh, Simon, I feel really honored to be, right there. You're like your pre-birthday,
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah, and it's sort of significant in another way. I think because the Primal Wound book landed courtesy of Amazon on, I think, the eve of my birthday. It's all around this time, and I know I've seen some stuff today about somebody with a birthday around about this time, and how that is affecting that particular adoptee. So it can be pretty for us sensitive souls, right? So you've when we talked last time, and when we talked before we hit record today, you talked about being ultra sensitive, and that's kind of how I feel. I don't know if I'd use the word ultra. This isn't a sensitivity competition, right?
Right.
I feel that. I feel that, and I feel sensitive, and sometimes I feel I'm quite gullible, right? I believe stuff quite easily, which
But I have a question for you, even though I know you're going to ask me a couple of questions. So, were you sensitive? Did you feel sensitive before?
I have felt pretty. I didn't really have a lot of benchmarks to cover myself. I didn't have any benchmarks for sensitivity. But now at 56 and 57 tomorrow, I can see that I'm sensitive, and a funny thing occurs to me is I would, if somebody else called me sensitive, and they meant it as a criticism, I would normally say, no, what on earth are you talking about? No, you got it totally wrong. So it's like, I think I'm more sensitive, and I think that's a strength, really. I think sensitivity is a foundation for empathy, and empathy is the foundation for relationships. So I've got a lot of work to do, clearly, on all that stuff. I've had a few things happened over the festive season where I've been a grumpy customer, right? Not being sensitive to other people. So I'm not holding myself up as a bastion of empathy, but I do feel that sensitivity helps us being sensitive helps us become more empathetic.
Wow, you're right. It does.
What about you? You describe yourself as ultra sensitive. How do you?
I've always known that. I've always been, I guess you could say, criticized. Oh, you're so sensitive. You're so sensitive. And as I began therapy around my journey and discovery, my DNA discovery, of finding out that I am not even on my family tree in a traditional sense, I realized that maybe I was sensitive, but I'm a feeler. I feel. I have deep empathy. I can feel others' joy. I can feel others' pain, in addition to my own. And so when someone is going through something and I'm going through something, it is a big emotional storm. And I suffer, unfortunately, a lot from anxiety. I mean, to the point where it affects me physically. I have, wow, just talking about it right now, I'm feeling emotions in my stomach, but I have separation anxiety. When I get ready to go on a plane, my stomach turns. I feel like I'm about to get sick. And it used to be when I got to the airport, I was fine and it would go away. It was something about this anticipation of being separated. My husband used to joke it was because I was leaving him. And he would always say, "Don't worry, I'll still be here when you return." I'm like, ha ha. But now it's gotten worse. Now it doesn't go away when I get to an airport. It sometimes lasts when I'm on a plane. Actually, I just got back from a road trip, and the first 45 minutes I suffered from anxiety, and that has never happened to me. I love road trips. So I'm a deep feeler. I feel others' emotions. I'm deeply empathetic, and I deal with anxiety. And so I'm working on it, on my journey to healing and enlightenment. So yeah.
Are you scared of your feelings?
I'm not afraid of my feelings. I'm exhausted by my feelings.
Oh,
There's some days where I just don't want to feel anything. I just want to go through the day, do what I love to do, whether it's cooking or taking a nap or traveling. And I just want to be. I don't want to feel any emotions, or should I say, I want to turn it down from 100 to a 10. I'm tired of feeling, especially as it relates to my adoption and DNA discovery. My goodness, there's so much emotions around that, and so many family members involved, and juggling of emotions, juggling of myself. And I am so tired of feeling. I really am.
yeah.
And I think it's okay. I think it's okay to be tired of feeling. Too much of anything is just not good.
Yeah. So we talked before I hit record about, I was talking that I've done some therapy and over the last few months, and I was supposed to be seeing the therapist tomorrow, and she's decided that that she's unable to do therapy anymore, unable to offer therapy anymore. And she said that she was thinking about, I don't know, she said that she was thinking about retiring. And I do remember something now that she said actually before Christmas that I didn't share with you before, but that was that she was, she said she wouldn't leave me in the lurch. Isn't that interesting? And then I've had this text offer.
Oh, so a text. Wow.
I had a text offer that has left me in the lurch. But I'm getting around to going back to your subject, the subject in hand, which is about our about fighting our feelings or being exhausted of our feelings, as you say. I think it's interesting. An interesting distinction between those two. I can relate. I can definitely relate to being exhausted. Just this is just tiring. This is just too much. The other image that comes to my head, I can't remember whether I had this on a conversation for the podcast or one of the the conversations I had before podcasts or after podcasts about this. There was this king in Britain in something like the 9th century called King Canute, and he tried to hold back the tide. Right? So the tide was coming in on the coast of England somewhere, and he tried to stop the tide coming in And I remember doing drawing a picture for him for my homework when I was about maybe 8 or 9. Not a particularly good picture, actually, because I'm not a great artist. But it was a picture of this bloke with a crown on his head, with his hand out to the waves, trying to stop the waves. And that's how I felt. And I've been as completely ineffective, right? I've been completely as ineffective as King Canute, because that hand isn't going to stop the waves, and my will isn't going to stop my emotions. Absolutely no way.
I love that analogy, because I often, in the beginning of my journey and discovery, I told my husband, I said, going through this is like wave after wave. And it's like, there's a song that talks about wave after wave, wave after wave. And it just is what it is. And I love your analogy, because just like the waves, I mean, it requires the moon interacting with the gravitational pull and the time, and depending on when the tides come in or when they go out, depends on how big the waves are. There's some times when the waves are so small and they're so calm, that it's a beautiful day. Those are some good times. And then there's other times where the clouds come and the tide, comes in and the waves are just massive. But when I was living in California, as we know, surfers love big waves, especially on the Pacific coast. And if we want to heal, we have to learn to literally ride the wave. So instead of being inside of it, we have to learn to be on top of it and enjoy it as much as we possibly can. And there are times where I literally feel like giving up. I honestly I'm like, okay, maybe if I just sleep, I want to wake up, but just sleep for a really, really, really long time, maybe for 48 hours straight. I just need a break. It'll be great. And then I think about, well, what would I miss in those 48 hours? I'm going to miss a whole lot. And so I get up, I keep going. And if a wave hits me, I try to figure out how to get on top of it. I know I'm sounding all, pretty woo-woo, but I think that is a part of healing, emotional healing.
We like woo-woo on this podcast.
I'm sorry?
We like woo-woo on this podcast.
Oh.
I think personally that the woo-woo stuff is, well, let me put this. In my experience, woo-woo stuff, and there's a lot more people that are a lot more woo-woo than me, right? So, this isn't a woo-woo competition or a sensitivity competition. And I think that the woo-woo often is more healing than the logic stuff, than the psychological, the logic. This isn't about logic. This isn't, I think about, I've seen people, read books about affirmations, right? This idea that we can bend our beliefs at will. We can change our logic at will by writing it and reciting it. And if we have, but it takes 100 days to do this. And if your belief hasn't changed in 100 days, that's because you haven't stuck at it. All that sort of stuff, that really ultra logical stuff, to me has been pretty pointless.
And I think that has a lot to do with, I'm going to go back to the wave analogy. The wave, if you think about on a scientific level, on a logic level, we can understand how waves are formed. But it takes courage. It takes the illogical part of you to literally get on a wave and ride a 30-foot wave, in Hawaii or Fijian Islands or somewhere. It takes a lot of trust, and it takes and then in time it takes experience on how to conquer it. And I think with healing, that we can use that as a one-to-one. You have to look at that wave and say, all right, I'm going to push my logic aside, not all of it, but most of it, and just trust the process. I'm going to get on top of that emotional wave. I'm not going to, I tried stabbing the pain at the ankles. That didn't work. I'm going to try now to get on top of it. And sometimes when you do, you get a clearer picture about everything that's going on around you. And you realize that the pain actually isn't that pain. The pain is trying to get on top of the wave. And the joy is being on that top and riding it as long as you possibly can. Because when the waves crash, it doesn't hurt really. And you want to get back on it again. And I think I definitely know that has been my experience. I mean, when we talked at first, I was telling you, my book, that I wrote, Hello, Sweet Baby, An Adoption Journey. That book, when I wrote it, well, let me rewind. The story came from when I tried to explain to my youngest son, Phoenix, who was 5 at the time, about my adoption discovery and the fact that I found out that I was mixed race. I thought that I was just a very fair-skinned African-American woman, and to find out that my birth father is Jewish white and my birth mother was Black. And he was so confused. And I remember he was trying to make sense of the whole thing. He even said to me, well, he said, Mommy, well, then that means I'm just like you. You have a white daddy and a Black mommy, and I have a white mommy and a Black daddy. And I'm like, no, it's not like that. And so there was a lot of pain in trying to explain it to him for several reasons. One, I was left by my adoptive parents to deal with all of this stuff on my own, right? And to try to explain it. And then I had to push through my emotions and what I just found out about myself to try to explain this to my son without breaking down and crying. And so that was that first wave, that came. And then I come up with this story. And then I think it was about a year later during the pandemic. Well, so maybe it wasn't a year later. It was a couple of years later during the pandemic. I said, all right, something inside me, there's this big wave, right? That says, you need to write this and you need to turn this into a children's book. And I remember when I heard that message, if you will, boy, I just started crying because I'm like, I'm not ready. I don't want to share. I don't want to hear the story again. I don't want to share it with anyone. If I share it with anyone, then that means people are going to ask me questions. And I don't want to ask anyone to ask me questions because I don't even want to talk about it. But I do want to talk about it. And so that was wave number 2. And
that's the exhausting bit right there.
That was the exhausting. And it was painful because like a wave, it was so massive. I still didn't understand all parts. My logic started kicking in, and I thought that I had to logically break it down. But I followed my spirit, and I wrote this book. And I'm learning that I knew this, but I didn't know this, but that I'm not alone. Other people may not have the exact same experience, but they could sympathize and empathize. And they want more. And so that's the fun part of riding that wave. Now I'm on the top, I'm surfing. And now I'm like, oh, this is not bad. All right. Okay. Here comes another one. I got this. And so I know I definitely kind of believe in astrological signs, and I'm a Pisces, which is a water sign. And so I think for this year, I'm going to take I love your example of waves. I'm gonna carry that with me through the rest of the year. Just riding that wave. Yeah, thank you.
So you'll love this one, I think. So this is a quote from a mentor of mine whose partner has also coached me for a long time. This is from a guy called Richard Wilkins. And I'll put the link in the show notes.
Okay.
If people want to check him out. So he calls himself the minister. Well, he calls his organization, which is basically him and his wife, right? They call themselves, and they've got an assistant. They call themselves the Ministry of Inspiration. That's pretty good. The Ministry of Inspiration. Like and he says that high and low tides. Oh, I can't remember. Yeah. Happiness and sadness are merely the high and low tides of a big sea called contentment.
Wow.
Now you use the word spirit for the driving force for you. I think, do you describe a driving force for the book? Do you think spirits need to heal?
Absolutely. Well, actually, let me rewind. No. In my opinion, I feel like the spirits already know. There's just kind of like this, for me, again, this guiding force. And it's kind of like my spirit, at least, is my protector. My spirit is like, look, you know now, or you're going through a situation, or you're about to enter something, and I'm here to help guide and direct you. You just have to learn how to tune in and listen, because I think the emotional part, boy, that's a deep question. I think the emotional part of us might be a mixture of our logical thoughts with part of our logical, I think it's like the energy of our logical thoughts that needs the healing. Because as I was saying, I can't remember if I said it in here or we were talking before, when I discovered that I was adopted through DNA and that my parents didn't tell me and all of that, I physically got sick instantly for 3 months. My body physically broke down, from shingles to breathing disorders. I had to have surgery. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And I think that and again, we could say, oh, it's our emotions, but what are our emotions? I think my emotions were just the energy that came through my thoughts of the shock of what I was going through. And my spirit kept me safe and guided me and saying, all right, okay, you need to start doing this, or you need to start activating that to kind of get yourself together. So that was kind of a long answer to your question. So I don't think spirits need healing. Well, at least mine, I don't think it needs healing. I think that is the guiding force. It is. So yes, no.
Okay. So the book, people mention this all the time, right? That the body keeps the score. That's the name of the book, right? Okay. So, what it felt like to me was the body had kept that score, and then the genie came out of the bottle, right?
Yes.
The genie came out of the bottle, and all this massive reaction happened, was all kind of unleashed.
Yes.
Unleashed. So I don't know. I'm mixing a lot of metaphors here. Sound like a volcanic explosion to me.
I mean, really, for me, it was the foundation of everything that I thought I knew about myself was not built on solid ground and came crashing instantly. And it tore every emotional and physical part of me. But yet I love me, I love my life, and I still, I had to keep standing. And so, yes, it was a volcanic explosion.
So it was perhaps one of the really there's got to be a spectrum of a spectrum of strength. I don't know. Volcanic eruptions. Are they the ones with the Richter scale? Is that earthquakes? I can't remember.
That's earthquakes.
That's earthquakes, yeah. But whatever the equivalent is, right, for volcanoes, there's a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you're coming out of the fog. You're coming out of the fog. Was it coming out of the fog? It was because this was your reaction to hearing it, wasn't it?
I mean, not just hearing. It's funny. I didn't even hear it. I had no idea. I took this DNA test for fun with my brother right after my father passed, because we were building a family tree. And I looked at the results, and the results did not make sense to me. The genetics did not make sense to me. And I could not understand why I was not only not connected to anybody on my family tree, the Jackson family, and I guess my mom's side of the family too. But it was connecting me to other people that I didn't recognize, but physically, they kind of looked like me. So I didn't even have the luxury of hearing it from someone. That was all the logic. It was the scientific data saying, here's what's really happening to you, Janeen. And so, I am very unapologetic with my family, which, by the way, we are on fantastic and great and healing terms, but I am unapologetic to them about how I felt when I first found out, and the disaster that it caused. However, the disaster is what it is. And we are now, I'm not left alone to pick up all of the pieces by myself. There's some pieces that I will have to journey on and pick up all by myself, but my mother is here with me, and we're talking about it. So I just saw in Chicago, the Museum of Science and Industry, there's an exhibit about Pompeii, and they went through every it was August 4th where the explosion happened, and they went through all the stages of what happened, how the day before the people were happy and they didn't know what was going on, and the birds were chirping, and they have some documentation about what was going on, and then the eruption, and then the phases, what spewed out of Mount Vesuvius and all of that. And I remember being in there, and it was the massive sound that was playing in this dark room, and everything inside me was shuddering, and I became scared and anxious, because standing in that space reminded me of exactly what I went through the first week of my experience in discovering my adoption and the complexities of my DNA. And however, as we know, everyone died in Pompeii, but in my journey, I didn't. But now my mother has come back and said, all right, I'm like, Mom, what's this rock? Or what's this thing? Or what did it mean when you said so-and-so, you and Dad said so-and-so when I was a kid? And she's pushing through, and she's helping me put the pieces together. And for that, I'm so grateful. Unfortunately, when people are going through traumatic experiences, they don't get the opportunity to talk to the people who have hurt them, or who have, whether it was intentional or not. And I'm so grateful that I get to have my mom with me, and I get to talk to my birth parents, even though there's some complexities with them. But I get to put some of these pieces together and create an image that I never knew about before.
So when you had all this, you had this explosive reaction to the looking at seeing the DNA results. What was the bit where there was some, what was the confirmation? Was there a moment, what was the first sort of confirmation that you had that this was true?
It's interesting you say that, because there was confirmation that it was true, and then there was acceptance. So I received confirmation, I believe it was 48 hours or 24 hours after. I started receiving texts from my paternal side, a half brother, saying, "I cannot believe we found you. Please give me a call. We've been waiting for this moment." I thought it was part of a scam. And then I'm like, who is this guy? This is a weirdo. He started sending me LinkedIn invites and Facebook invites. This very, pale white guy with blonde hair. I'm like, who is this? And I decided to call him. And that's when he told me about this little baby named Jennifer that his dad gave away when he was a teenager. And I'm like, I'm not this baby. I'm so sorry. Then later that day, he emailed me my newborn picture. And I realized at that moment, I have never seen a newborn picture of myself. I was adopted, I believe, at 3 or 4 months. So I was in foster care for a little bit. And to rewind, I was even more frightened by this guy, because I asked him, I said, "How did you get my phone number? How did you get my information?" He had purchased a background report on me the moment the DNA connected the pieces. So that was traumatic. So that's when I received official confirmation. But I didn't accept it until the following day, when he gave me the adoption agency information. I called. They confirmed that I was adopted, and then I called my mother. And that's when my mom was like, "Okay, there's something I need to tell you." And that's when I received acceptance. And then that's when the volcano exploded, because I was not going to believe this until I heard it through my mother.
Yeah. So going back to the wave stuff then. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the waves as emotion, right? The waves are a metaphor for emotion. And I think what basically you're saying is that healing is riding the waves of emotion, not that's what you're saying, is it?
Yes.
And the reason that you liked my King Canute analogy is because that's trying to push. So it's there's a kind of development of a metaphor coming on to me, which is that song, "Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, merrily, life is but a dream," right? So that's going with the flow.
Going with the flow, yes.
Going with the flow, and rather than going against the flow, trying to go upstream, which is going to be hard. So we're mixing the metaphors again. Does that sound?
Yes, that is, you're giving me a lot to think about. Absolutely. I'm going with the flow. I mean, we all know that whether we're in a creek or a riverbed or something, if we go against it, it's hard. It's hard to walk against it. It burns more calories, more energy. But when you which is hard for people to be, open and vulnerable to the experience, it is not going to last forever. It is going to be really painful in the beginning. And we don't know how long that beginning is. It depends on how much we decide to go against that wave. But once we get past that, it makes the next obstacle even easier to get through. And it proves to you too, when you go with the flow that you're gonna be okay. And actually goodness can come out of it. Simon, I've always claimed to be deeply insecure my whole life. I'm insecure. Didn't get the jobs that I really wanted because I'm just so insecure. I'm not aggressive. I'm not like this one, or I'm not like that one, or my background is in art and design, and I was never as good as anyone else because I'm insecure. I'm a visual I'm a visual learner, or I speak through images and not words. And it was because I was insecure. And I'm not insecure. I am going with the flow. And people now tell me, after I've written my blog in my book and speak to me, and I speak well about, or give details without breaking down about my journey, people are like, wow, you're so strong. I don't know if I could do that if I were you, or I really admire you. I'm becoming emotional now and saying that, but those are words that I would never in a million years use to describe who I am, because I thought I was insecure, but it was because, unbeknownst to me, I was going against the flow. And now that I the volcano has erupted and the waves, the tsunami has come, I'm going with the flow. I'm not going to fight it anymore. And I'm learning that I am secure. I am a feeler. I am stronger than I ever thought I could be. I'm a great example for my children. I have lots of tenacity, and I'm learning to use these positive words and claiming them unapologetically. I don't think, well, I don't want to say this because it might look like, you know what? I am who I am. And so I think I was saying earlier, it's hard for people to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is really scary because we don't know, it requires trust. I'm trusting my spirit, my guide, and I'm really slaying my life. And so, for anyone who's out there listening to this, I understand, you understand what it's like to be afraid and to be scared and to have that pit in your stomach. But you must push through. You don't have, it's not even a have to, it's like your life depends on it. You take medication because you have a certain ailment to get better, to heal. Then for emotional healing, being vulnerable is the medication for healing.
Have you ever thought about that before? Being vulnerable is the medication for healing.
Yeah, 3 months into this journey, after I became extremely sick and got all kinds of weird ailments that even like only toddlers get, like hand, foot, and mouth. I said, I'm tired of being sick. I'm already emotional and upset about what I'm going through, and I'm physically sick. I developed an eating disorder. I gained a significant amount of weight. I said, I can't live like this. I want to live. And so I said, oh my gosh, my spirit guide, or my spirit guide basically was like, you need to be open with the process and flow. Okay, how are you going to take that? And I'm like, oh crap, I don't want to do this. And then as I coughed and as I looked at the scars on my face, I was like, all right. I'll do it. I'll do anything. And it was a process, step by step by step. I see my therapist every single week. I make time for it through my job. That is my medication towards healing. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely.
So there seems to be 3 sorts of healing for me you're describing. So you're talking about physical healing, talking about emotional healing, and you're talking about spiritual healing, and that's a misnomer, right? That's a contradiction in terms, because what you're saying is the spirit is unchanging. I can't remember, how did you describe it? I think I said to you, does the spirit heal? And you said yes, and then you changed your mind, you said no.
No.
So like, is that because you see the spirit as always whole?
It's because I always see it as this guide. It's like a compass, you know? The compass is never wrong. North is north, east is east, west and south, always. And once I believe if you are vulnerable and open to listen to that, then all of the other things will come right into play. And I know that because I'm a testament to that. I can't heal physically if I don't have my if I'm not listening to my spirit, and I can't heal emotionally if I'm not listening to my spirit. You will never find your way through the forest if you do not look at your compass. You can, but you will probably fall, step on a couple of rocks, get bit by a snake. You go hungry for a really long time. But my spirit is my compass guide. And once I look at the compass and trust the unknown, everything else will fall into place. I know that. I know it. Know it.
Did stuff try to pull you off that course?
So I feel like every day something tries to pull me off course, especially when I get tired. Like when I don't feel like doing it anymore. Yeah, all the time. Even little things like I might hear a song. Well, I told you my father passed. We were on this road trip. The song came on. My dad liked doing road trips, and it reminded me of my dad. And I was all happy. And then all of a sudden, I got angry because I'm like, oh, he's not here because I can't talk to him about this. Or he left me here. He never even told me. Or I might hear my birth mother is a professional jazz singer. I'll hear a song that she sung before. And I'm like, oh, my birth mother. You know, I don't have a very close relationship with her. So, or nature versus nurture. A lot of the things that I do in my life, my birth parents do. So I'm having these constant triggers and reminders, and it pulls me, it pulls me, it tries to pull me back wave after wave, right? And then I'm like, I stop, I relax, try to relax, relate. And then some people say release. I'm just like, oh, fuck it. Then I go with, and then I'm like, I'm going with the flow. Just go with the flow. Because I know going with the flow always works. So yes, some things always try to pull me back all the time.
So what's your relationship with those triggers?
What's my relationship with the triggers?
Yeah.
I told you I deal with a lot of anxiety. I always have as a kid and even as an adult. And I'll be honest, I haven't fully worked on that yet. And I'm going to have to, because when I had this anxiety attack going on a road trip, I don't know what that was about. So I need to now start working on that. And I think, as I said before, my relationship is just, sometimes it's just exhaustion. It's exhaustion, but it is what it is. I want to be with who I am for the rest of my life. And so I have no choice but to keep moving forward.
Yeah. So it sounds to me that anxiety, those anxieties, do you have these things? Do you have these things on the side of what you call freeways, right? We call motorways.
Mm-hmm.
And at the side of motorways in the UK, we have these things called rumble strips. Do you have those?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the rumble strip, what do they do? The rumble strips, they rumble.
They rumble. They wake you up.
They wake you up.
You back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what if the anxiety was there as a rumble strip, to wake you up to the fact that you've gone off course, because that's what's happening, right?
Well, it's definitely something rumbling inside me. And I hate it. Oh, I hate it so much. It's also
yeah.
It's yeah, the anxiety, the rumble strips, the emotional rumble strips is also reminding me that there's still another part that still needs some healing. There's something there. Okay, you've taken care of everything else. Now we gotta deal with what's going on over here. And I'm like, oh gosh, all right, fine. I will deal with it.
And there comes the tiring bit again, right there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did have a good, couple of sunny days, couple of sunny months. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I'm like, oh God, all right, I'll have to deal with that when I get back, which is actually today. Like I said, I have an appointment right after this. And so I'm gonna go deal with my rumble strips. Ugh. But I sound exhausted, and I am. I'm not gonna lie, I am. But honestly, I think the biggest message that I want to convey in terms of healing is go with the flow, get it out through any form of expression, whether it's dancing, writing, singing. Yeah, I'm not a writer, I'm not a singer. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to the logical part of your head. You don't know what you are. Listen, watch your compass, your spirit, your guide. That is not, if you're like, I've never listened to it before. I didn't either. Most of us don't. It's hard to do because it requires you to be vulnerable. It requires you to leave your logic and to go inward. Healing is an inner healing journey. It is an inner journey to it's an inner journey to heal. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that it is a process of accepting painful experiences, and it requires deep inner work, meaning your spirit, to untether the chains of the past, because usually healing requires something that was done, so it's in the past. And some of those past triggers are really nasty and scary, but you will get through it. You will be okay. And because of that, everything around you is going to change and be better. So that is the biggest message that I'm trying to convey through this whole experience.
So you said that it's accepting painful experiences. It sounds to me that you're saying that it's also about accepting painful feelings.
Yeah. Experiences and feelings. I think I was saying like feelings, I think it's just an emotional. I think the feelings and emotions are a trigger to something that happened to us. It's the energy that comes with it. It's like a chain reaction. You get hit, there's a physical pain and it hurts. You get hit, there's an emotional pain that gets hurt, or someone says something to you, it doesn't hurt physically, but it's a chain reaction. It hurts logically, it hurts emotionally. So yeah.
Can I give you an analogy that I came up with on that point? This is 3 steps. Okay. Step 1, the trigger is pulled. The bullet leaves the barrel of the gun at whatever it is velocity and does some damage, right? So that's stage 1. Right. Stage 2, it's a blank. Yeah. The trigger is pulled, but it isn't a proper bullet. It's a blank. So it makes a lot of noise, but it doesn't damage. Okay, it does no damage at all because it's a blank. Stage 3, the trigger is pulled, and all you hear is a click. There's no bullet, there's no blank, there's no response.
You're giving me a lot to think about right now. That's that's pretty deep. Wow. Yeah. That's emotion right there.
What would you like to call this conversation?
Wave after wave.
Okay. That's what we'll call it. Thank you very much, Janeen.
I mean, this was amazing. Thank you. And I feel so honored to just be here with you the day before your birthday. And, I know, speaking of waves, a long ocean separates us, but know that I'm going to be here in the Midwest and I'm going to sing a little birthday song for you. Yeah. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I just brought the whole episode to an end without asking you if there's anything that you wanted to, anything else that you wanted to share. So let me remedy that. And so, is there anything that you want to share?
No, you've given me a lot to think about. I'm so excited to go speak to my therapist now and be like, I was going to talk to you about this, but I want to talk to you about this. What was the name? Let me write that down really quick. I just text her and say, give me 5 minutes. What is the name of the king you were talking about?
Canute. So Canute.
King Canute. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to read about that. Speaking with you today has been really amazing, and has been a great, for me at least, a foundation of how to start my 2024. And thank you for also saying woo-woo is accepted. I am around a lot of people who are logical thinkers. And so sometimes I'm just kind of like, I got to keep the woo over in this space. This is my space. But thank you.
So I want to come back to something that you said right at the start.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really dive into it, but I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes on that. So we've got people telling us that our insecurity is bad.
Mm-hmm.
We feel, and so we've got that. We've got other people telling us that our characteristics, our feelings are bad, and then and we somehow feel we want to be King Canute because those waves feel so bad. We want them to stop, right? And it's all just building up a big it's a big storm of denial.
Yeah.
And it's Canuting. It's trying to push everything back, and it is really exhausting. It is. It is really exhausting. And I've been thinking about this myself. I've been judging teenage Simon on what 56-year-old Simon knows. Mm-hmm. Right? And like, was I weird? Was I weird? That's why I was weird. What did I do then? That was why. And it's like I'm not giving myself any grace. And
I should have said that. We have to give ourselves grace.
Right. Yeah. And I'm thinking about us I'm thinking about me being hard on my parents, right? Judging them in the 70s on what we know in 2024. Right. And I'm not alone in that.
Nope. That was a huge struggle. My therapist has helped me a lot with that, but because my mother is willing to be part of this journey with me now, that has helped melt that away very quickly. I do have to get ready to go, and I will want to follow up with you, but I do want to say, while you're judging your teenage self, I'm too busy coddling the first 3 months of my life. I don't know where I was. I don't know who I was with. I don't know anything about the people. If I'm anything who I am today, like I was as an infant in terms of being emotional, then I know I used to cry for that baby, because I was just like, I know she probably felt alone. She wanted more hugs. She was expecting to see her mom. Her mother sang with her for 9 months in utero. Now she doesn't hear the song anymore. So and maybe that's where my anxiety comes from. I have to learn to let that baby go and stop and give ourselves grace. But I would love, can I go on your calendar and like schedule another meeting with you?
Of course, yeah. I was going to suggest the very same, because there was one bit that we haven't been anywhere near, and we just blew past it. The fact that you said, you know, you've got the relationship that you've got with your mom that you've got, bearing in mind this volcano that went off for you. I think is truly incredible. I'd like to, when we speak next, I'd like to kind of explore that a little bit.
Yeah, I would love to too. And then I would love to just connect, I don't know, once a month or something. And
cool.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
I appreciate you. Thank you so, so much. Enjoy your evening as I'm getting ready to enjoy my day.
Yeah. And what's your blog? Like, let's put a link in the show notes to your blog. What's your blog called?
Mixed Up. Oh, here, I'm going to put it right here in the chat right here. Let's see. mixedupdiary.com. And I don't know why, but I can look at my blog, and a lot of people from the UK are looking at my blog, but I can't tell where.
No.
Jamaica, some people in Jamaica, China, and England are really looking at my blog. Cool. And I would love to know, you know, what are they getting from it? But hey, at least they're getting something from it. So I do have to run.
Okie dokie. We'll see you soon.
Happiest birthday.
Thank you. I'll see you next month. Take care.
All right.
Lots of love, sisters. We'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.